Welcome to the Everyday Words Podcast, your daily dose of etymology and vocabulary.
Every single day, adult chieftains basically berate themselves for doing something that, well, we would happily give a one-year-old a standing ovation for.
Oh, absolutely. We do it all the time.
Right. I mean, think about it. A baby takes a wobbly step, falls flat on the floor, and what do? We clap. We cheer for them.
Yeah, we encourage them to try again.
Exactly. But when we, as adults try to learn a new skill, maybe it's a foreign language or a complex software program or, I don't know, a new musical instrument, and we stumble, we immediately call ourselves stupid.
We just decide we are fundamental failures.
Which is wild. Like, why does the adult brain treat the absolute necessity of making mistakes as this fatal character flaw, while a baby's brain treats it as a center of data?
Well, it is a massive cognitive blind spot. I mean, we completely lose touch with the biological reality of how learning actually happens as we age.
Right.
We replace that messy, trial and error process of genuine growth with a demand for instant flawless performance.
Like, we should just know it instantly.
Exactly. And when we inevitably fail to be perfect on the very first try, we panic.
Which brings us to the core of our deep dive today. We are exploring a transcript from a YouTube video by the Mr. English channel.
A really interesting source.
Yeah, it features a conversation between two speakers, Emily and Paul, and it's titled, "Change Your Mindset, Change Your Life." But the really fascinating part about this specific material is that it is explicitly designed for A1 to B1 level English language learners.
Right, so the vocabulary is highly constrained.
Exactly. It's restricted only to foundational words.
And that limitation is actually what makes their breakdown of human psychology so profound.
How so?
Well, by stripping away the academic jargon and, complex neurobiological terms, Emily and Paul are forced to describe the mechanics of learning in their rawest, most direct form.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
They cannot hide behind complicated language, so the concepts themselves have to be crystal clear.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because it is just staggering how these simple conversational tools apply to absolutely any overwhelming challenge or steep learning curve you might be facing in your own life right now.
Absolutely.
Whether you are, picking up a guitar at 40 or stepping into a massive new leadership role at work, the roadblocks are identical. Emily and Paul start by defining a mindset, not as some permanent personality trait you were born with, but simply as your feelings and ideas about something.
Like the recurring thought, English is hard.
Yes, exactly.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, learning isn't just about accumulating facts or drilling flashcards.
Mm-hmm.
Fundamentally, learning relies on our internal narrative.
Right.
It is entirely about how we process the feeling of inadequacy. When you are confronted with a gap in your knowledge, your brain's reaction to that gap dictates everything that follows.
And they break this reaction down into a really clear duality, which I love.
The two mindsets.
Yeah. First, you have what they call the stuck mindset. This is when you feel like you literally cannot move forward. You're trapped in thoughts like, I am bad at this, or I will never learn.
Right.
And they point out how these specific thoughts carry a heavy physical and emotional consequence. I mean, you feel sad, your energy drops, and you just want to quit.
Well, and that physical drop in energy is not just a metaphor. It is a neurological reality.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The brain is an incredibly energy-hungry organ, and it is highly efficient at conserving resources.
Yeah.
If your internal narrative, that stuck mindset, is telling your brain that a situation is hopeless and that you are inherently bad at the task,
The brain just listens.
it does. It is not going to release the neurochemicals required to keep trying. It actively shuts the operation down.
Wait, let me make sure I'm grasping the scale of this. Are you saying that when I tell myself, like, I am bad at coding or I'm bad at public speaking, my brain literally cuts off my chemical fuel supply?
That is exactly what happens. I mean, motivation and focus are driven heavily by dopamine.
Okay, right.
And dopamine isn't just the reward chemical like people think. It is the molecule of pursuit. It gives you the drive to actually push through friction.
Okay.
But your brain only releases dopamine if it believes there's a pathway to success. When you declare, I am bad at this, you're giving your brain a finalized dead-end statement.
So it's like a stop sign.
Exactly. The brain assesses the situation, concludes that effort will yield no reward, and pulls the plug on your dopamine. You physically feel tired and unmotivated because your brain is trying to save energy for something you can actually achieve.
That completely changes how I view self-doubt. I mean, it isn't just a bad mood. It is an active self-sabotage of my own biology.
It really is.
So the alternative they present is the growing mindset. Instead of an absolute statement like, I am bad, the growing mindset uses the phrase, I am learning.
Right. Emily and Paul use the analogy of a plant.
Yeah, starting as a tiny seed in the dirt, but growing incrementally every single day.
Shifting from a static identity to an active process.
I have to push back a little here, though. I mean, I think a lot of people listening might be highly skeptical of this.
Sure.
Does just changing our internal vocabulary from I am bad to I am learning actually do anything tangible?
No.
If I sit down at a piano and I am genuinely terribly off-key telling myself I am learning, feels like an empty positive affirmation.
It feels fake.
Exactly. It doesn't change the fact that the music sounds awful right now.
Well, you are right that it doesn't change the immediate output. The music will still sound terrible today.
Right.
But it completely changes the cognitive environment in which you are operating. I am bad is an identity statement. If you are inherently permanently bad at something, practicing is illogical.
Oh, I see.
But I am learning is an acknowledgement of motion. It is open-ended.
So it acknowledges the friction without letting the friction define you.
Precisely. It is a very pragmatic, realistic assessment. You are not denying that the task is incredibly hard right now, nor are you pretending to be a master.
You're just being honest about where you are.
Right. You are simply stating that the current state is not the final state. And by doing that, you signal to your brain that the loop is still open, which keeps that dopamine pathway active.
Wow.
You are telling your biological systems, keep funding this pursuit because we are moving.
Okay, I see the mechanics of that. But when you are in the thick of it, when you are staring at a screen of code that won't compile, or you are totally lost in a foreign country trying to order coffee, the frustration is blinding.
Oh, it's incredibly overwhelming.
It is really hard to just magically switch from a stuck thought to a growing thought in the heat of the moment.
Yeah, the transition requires a bridging mechanism. You cannot just leap across the chasm of frustration.
And Emily and Paul provide an incredibly elegant bridge for this. They introduce a tactical tool they call the magic word.
Yeah.
It's just 3 letters, Y-E-T, yet.
It's so simple.
So simple. And they offer these highly relatable real-world examples. Imagine you are watching a movie in a new language, and the thought hits you. I do not understand.
A classic stuck thought.
Yeah, and the immediate feeling attached to that thought is defeat. The internal meaning is, I am lost, just turn the movie off.
Right.
But if you take that exact same thought and just append the magic word to the end, it becomes, I do not understand, yet.
What's fascinating here is the psychological brilliance of how yet functions. Notice what it does not do. It does not deny your reality.
It's not just blind optimism.
No, it is not toxic positivity at all. It fully validates your present moment frustration. You are watching the movie and you truly do not comprehend the dialogue.
Right. It doesn't ask you to lie to yourself.
Exactly. But by adding yet, you instantly dissolve the finalized, hopeless nature of the thought. You convert a stuck mindset into a growing mindset in milliseconds.
It implies a timeline.
Yes, a timeline where success is inevitable, provided you stay in the process.
To me, this 3-letter word acts exactly like a door wedge. You know that feeling when you were failing at something and your brain is just trying to slam the door shut on your confidence?
Oh, absolutely.
You want to walk away and never look at the piano or the textbook again. The word yet is like a little rubber wedge you kick under the door right before it slams.
That is a great way to picture it.
It just props the door open. It leaves a tiny sliver of space to let the future in. You are just recognizing that you are at point A and mastery is at point C, and you just haven't crossed point B yet.
That is a perfect visualization. It keeps the system online.
But of course, keeping the system online means you have to stay engaged with the most painful part of learning anything new.
The mistakes.
The mistakes. You have to face the inevitable hurdle of making them. And Emily and Paul are very direct about this.
They don't sugarcoat it.
No, they acknowledge that making a mistake makes us feel stupid, it makes us feel shy, and it makes us feel bad. It is the ultimate trigger for slamming the door shut.
Well, because mistakes threaten our ego and our social standing. From a very young age, especially in traditional schooling, we are graded and judged on our ability to avoid errors.
Which is so backward.
It is. We internalize the idea that an error equals a flaw in our intelligence.
And that is exactly where Emily and Paul introduced the concept we touched on at the very beginning of this deep dive. They make the radical claim that the growing mindset actually loves mistakes.
It seeks them out.
Yeah. They bring up baby Mia, a 1-year-old learning to walk. Mia stands up, takes a wobbly step, and goes, boom, she falls down.
As babies do.
Right, and she falls constantly. Objectively, she is terrible at walking. But when she falls, her parents don't yell at her, they don't call her stupid or tell her to give up on walking forever.
Because the parents understand that the falling is an indispensable part of the walking.
So why do we abandon that logic the moment we turn into adults?
Because we fundamentally misunderstand neuroplasticity.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Well, to really grasp why the growing mindset loves mistakes, we need to understand what neuroplasticity is. Put simply, it is your brain's ability to physically change its structure to wire new neural pathways based on your experience.
Right, changing the brain.
Think of your brain like a dense forest. When you try a new skill, you are trying to forge a new dirt path through those trees.
Okay, I can picture that. And the first few times you walk it, there are roots and rocks everywhere. It is a really difficult trek.
Right. Now imagine your brain has a paving crew waiting to turn that dirt path into a fast, smooth highway.
Oh, I like that.
But the paving crew is asleep.
Wait, they're asleep.
Yes, they only wake up when an alarm goes off.
Yeah.
And do you know what triggers that alarm?
I am going to guess a mistake.
Exactly, an error. When baby Mia tries to walk and falls, she isn't failing. She is gathering vital data.
Her brain is testing things out.
Her brain is testing a physical hypothesis about balance and gravity. The fall sends a massive chemical signal involving neuromodulators like acetylcholine that tells the brain, hey, shifting our weight that far to the left didn't work. Wake up the paving crew. We need to adjust this neural pathway.
Hey, let me stop you there. Are you saying that without the mistake, the brain doesn't even know what to fix?
Precisely. If you perform a task perfectly, your brain doesn't need to change. It relies on existing pathways.
Wow.
It is only when you make an error, when you experience the friction and the failure, that the neurochemical cocktail is released to mark those specific neural circuits for neuroplastic change.
So the error is required.
Mistakes are not a glitch in the learning process. Mistakes are the literal biological mechanism of learning. You cannot calibrate the system without the errors.
That is incredible. So when we get angry at ourselves for making a mistake, we are basically getting angry at the very alarm system that is trying to upgrade our brain.
We are fighting our own biology. By treating mistakes as friends or as vital information, we stop wasting massive amounts of emotional energy feeling ashamed.
Right.
We let the error highlight the pathway, we process the data, and we adjust for the next attempt.
Like, oh, I used the wrong verb tense there. Good to know. Adjusting for next time.
Yeah.
It is so liberating to look at it as just raw data.
It takes the emotion right out of it.
It does. But even if we have our yet door wedge, and even if we are welcoming our mistakes as biological paving crews, there is still one final boss to defeat.
And what's that?
The sheer, terrifying scale of the big goals we set for ourselves.
Yes. The magnitude of the undertaking.
Exactly. Emily and Paul describe learning a new language as standing at the bottom of a very tall mountain. When you stand at the bottom and look all the way up to the peak hidden in the clouds, it makes you feel deeply tired.
It's overwhelming.
You feel incredibly small compared to the size of the task.
Well, this is the amygdala hijacking your ambition. When the gap between where you are and where you want to be is too vast, the brain registers the goal not as an exciting challenge, but as a threat to your energy reserves.
Because it just looks like too much work.
Right. It triggers that stuck mindset we discussed earlier, because the peak seems impossible to reach today.
And the solution they offer is just beautifully pragmatic, they say. Do not look at the top of the mountain.
Just ignore it.
Stop looking at the peak entirely. Instead, look down at your feet and take one small step. Do not tell yourself, I must learn all of English today, or I need to study this coding manual for 5 hours straight.
That is way too big.
It's huge. Instead, they say to shrink the goal down to something almost laughably small. Learn just 2 words like dog and cat, or commit to listening to one 3-minute podcast in your target language.
You are radically reducing the barrier to entry to bypass the brain's threat response.
To drive this home, they share a parable about a man who wants to build a huge, beautiful, long wall. He stands there looking at this massive empty space, and he just feels completely overwhelmed and sad.
The stuck mindset paralyzes him.
Exactly. He thinks, I can never build this wall, it is just too much work. But then a wise old friend comes along and tells him, you are right, you cannot build this big wall.
Which is an interesting intervention. The friend validates the overwhelm instead of offering toxic positivity.
Yes. The friend doesn't say, you can do it, push through the pain. He says, do not try to build a wall. Just look at this one brick. Your job today is not to build a wall. Your job today is to lay one single brick perfectly.
I love that.
And so the man does exactly that. He lays one brick. The next day, he lays one more brick perfectly. And eventually, after many days of just focusing on single bricks, he has his massive, beautiful wall.
That's powerful.
Here's where it gets really interesting. By completely ignoring the ultimate goal, by entirely dismissing the wall and obsessing only over the single brick in front of him, the man actually achieves the impossible thing.
He bypasses the overwhelm.
He reaches the peak of the mountain precisely because he stopped looking at it.
This raises an important question about how we manage our own ambitions in modern society. We live in a culture that idolizes the finished wall.
We really do.
We want the overnight success, the absolute fluency, the mastery. We are constantly pressured to keep our eyes on the peak. But overwhelm is the absolute enemy of consistency.
When you stare at the mountain, you freeze. So what does this all mean for how we structure our daily habits? I mean, how do you actually apply the brick strategy without feeling like we aren't doing enough?
It means you have to trust the math of compounding effort over the illusion of massive leaps.
Okay, trust the math.
By shrinking the goal down to a daily brick, writing one single paragraph, doing 5 minutes of stretching, or learning 2 vocabulary words, you guarantee daily success.
And that success matters neurologically, right?
Yes. And this loops right back to our earlier discussion about dopamine. A guaranteed daily win provides a constant, reliable drip of dopamine.
Oh, wow.
You prove to yourself every single day that you are capable of moving forward. You build trust with yourself. That dopamine fuels the growing mindset, making tomorrow's bricks slightly easier to lay than today's.
Because the wall literally builds itself if you just handle the bricks. It is deeply empowering because anyone, no matter how busy or tired or intimidated they are, can lay one single deck.
Anyone can do that.
So let's pull all of this together because we have extracted some incredibly powerful tools today from a conversation originally meant for language beginners. First, we have to recognize when our internal narrative has shut off our biological fuel supply.
Right, and we must swap out the finalized dead-end statement, I am bad, for the active open-ended statement, I am learning.
We shift from a permanent identity to a state of motion. Second, we equip ourselves with the magic word, the door wedge, yet.
We append it to our frustrations to keep the door to the future propped open.
Acknowledging the friction without submitting to it. Third, we completely reframe how we view mistakes. We recognize them not as character flaws, but as the literal alarm system that tells our neuroplasticity to start paving new pathways.
We treat them as vital calibration data, just like baby Mia learning to walk.
We stop demanding perfection from a biological system that absolutely requires error to function. And finally, we stop looking at the terrifying peak of the mountain. We stop obsessing over the massive finished wall. We look down at our feet and we focus entirely on laying one single brick today.
Just one small, manageable, laughably easy step.
And so Emily and Paul leave their viewers with a question, and we want to echo that call to action directly to you, the listener, right now. Whatever field you are exploring, whatever terrifying mountain you are currently staring at, what is your one brick for today?
Is it writing one sentence, making one phone call, reading one single page of that manual?
Just find that brick.
As you think about what your one daily brick might be, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. We talked extensively about how a mistake is really just information that helps our brains wire new pathways, exactly like a baby gathering data by falling.
Right.
But as adults, we fight this reality so fiercely. We are absolutely terrified of the fall.
You really are.
But what if our fear of making mistakes as adults isn't actually a fear of failing? What if it's a fear of the vulnerability required to truly learn something new? Are we really avoiding the fall, or are we avoiding the uncomfortable, humbling realization